Hi, it's Caleb Booker here. I wanted to do another book review, this time of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. This monster of a book, it's awesome. It's really good. As a general read, you're going to enjoy it. Won't necessarily agree with everything in the book, but it's a fascinating portrayal of some very unique characters. Ayn Rand's novels were so influential that they actually spawned the Ayn Rand Foundation, which exists today. So the notion behind this book, the character Howard Rourke, who's an architect who feels that any act of creation must be faithful to a single vision. And that applies to architecture or sculpting or writing or anything. That any kind of compromise is the only true sin. This book is written from the atheistic perspective. I mean, it's as religious as anything else, but true atheism, where man's creation is worshipped as a god. And several points in the book, people pray to the buildings around them, feel judged and compelled, and it's very religious, very spiritual in its own way, in a way that people who believe in God will think of as somehow sacrilegious or blasphemous, but whatever. But it's a new kind of occultism. I loved it because of the lessons it taught. I like that it taught about how one should always count on oneself. When it comes to goal setting, the goal is the work itself, not the fruits of the labor. So in the example in the book of Howard Rourke, his goal is to be out there creating a building. And once the building is completed, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if people love it or hate it, if it's destroyed or it lives forever. Irrelevant. I mean, he has some personal interest, but it doesn't really matter. His ultimate goal is to be out there building, and as long as he's doing that, none of the details matter. That's very powerful for people who have been trying to set goals for themselves and spinning their wheels. They find that they're not getting anywhere. This is very much about that. A false dichotomy, in my opinion, is created in this book between people who succeed by the labor of others and those who succeed by their own labor. It's a seeming contrast, but I don't think it's as black and white as they make it out to be. Likewise, there's this hatred of charity and of taking anyone's help at all in the book. And while she makes some good points, it's so fanatical and myopic and over the top that it's hard to have a rational conversation about it after you've read the book. So a little tricky that way. At the same time, though, what's great about reading someone's fanatical point of view is that it's a raw, distilled, clean window into a world that you may not have ever considered. If you find that you've been spinning your wheels, you're just not happy with your life, and you're not sure why, this might actually break you out of a little mental prison you might have constructed of yourself. Things I didn't like about the book: I didn't like that so many of the characters were seemingly stupid. Ayn Rand is one of those people who had a big IQ and developed a theology with that IQ and then settled on it early in life. And anybody who didn't agree with that theology that she had invented, she found a way of considering them idiots. I've been there. So I have every bit of empathy and sympathy with that. But, as a consequence, many of the characters in this book are portrayed as morons. And that is the way it is. There's something else I had mixed feelings about. I won't say I didn't like this, necessarily, but it was weird. Ayn Rand really values accomplishment above all else. So she values the notion of getting out there and changing the physical world. To that extent, she likes rape. The main relationship in the book between the two main characters involves Howard Rourke raping his great romance of his life, and she loves it, and it's this wonderful experience for them. They, draw similarities between that and Howard Rourke's raping of the soil, of the Earth's natural resources, to construct and build buildings, which are perceived in Ayn Rand's philosophy to be divine creations, the only truly holy thing in this world. So she has kind of a point to a certain extent. It's like an extremist view of get out there and affect the world, make a change, make a difference. If you're not doing anything. Yeah, but, I mean, really, let's face it, let's not advocate rape. And we're not respecting the earth for what it is in this philosophy. I mean, it's a complete omission of anything outside of your own creation. And what's so important about you building something? I think it's an arbitrary form of worship. But, hey, who am I to judge? Honestly, I honestly feel like I'm a better person for it. I find it's easier to set goals for myself, easier to persevere in the face of adversity. It's easier for me to stick to my guns when I know I'm right. Because, you know, there have been a lot of times in my life where I wanted to do something new, wanted to build something new, that's something that nobody had ever conceived of before, and I was immediately told to shut up, stop it, you're arrogant, you're, you know, whatever. And the whole notion of arrogance is well explored in this book as a virtue. Well, that's great, because I'm an egomaniac. So, I loved it, and I will be reading Ayn Rand's other book, Atlas Shrugged, a little later on, although my next book review will be from a suggestion from one of our other YouTubers. But meanwhile, if you have a suggestion for a book that you'd like me to review, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching. Bye.